Gents, Dave, Paulie,
Here we
how
are.
was your morning?
How was my morning? Oh, I'd say my morning was about an 8.
8 out of 10?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it 10, mate?
Well, I don't know why it wasn't a 10. I can tell you why it was an 8, though.
Why was it an 8?
It was an 8 because I had time to do my inner work, my reflection, ground, and everything like that. No extra external pressure from any other outside sources. Got nice and centered, go lift something heavy, come back, get clean.
Paulie, how's your morning, mate?
My direct morning was a 9 because I did my routine as usual. But then after that, I went shopping with my girlfriend.
So it could have been why wasn't yours a 10 then?
Because I'm the coat hanger. She's just all the
Kids,
clothes.
don't try that at home. You're the coat hanger.
She's just going through the shop, chucking everything on me. I'm holding all the clothes. So it's a little bit
Good looking coat hanger, by the way.
Take that. How's your morning, Nick?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I did my routine, my morning practice. A little clunky. It's not perfect every morning, but I kind of feel that perfection is never reality. It's not about perfection. What do you reckon?
Perfection is subjective. My idea of perfection, your idea of perfection, they're two completely different things. And they're always moving because my idea of perfection is also governed by whatever I'm feeling at the time. So my emotional state, whatever's going on in my life at the time. There's too many factors that are going on. So perfection it's a nebulous concept.
Yeah, perfect compared to what? Compared to your last time, compared to where you want to be, compared to someone you idolize, I find it
It's always comparison.
Yeah.
The only good thing about comparisons is in cricket when you see the run chase. The other team was after 5 overs. Gents, you do these wonderful little retreats. There's a word of mouth about you guys that you do these retreats over Brazil. Let's just start from the beginning in regards to what would someone expect when they jump on the plane, meet you guys at Brazil, and you go deep down a rabbit hole of self-discovery and processing.
Well, first up, they wouldn't expect anything in Brazil just yet.
Yeah, I was about to say, the process is going to start a little bit before that.
It's actually a retreat program.
Yeah.
It's part of we like to say it's about 7 weeks, but give or take, you know what I mean? It depends on how much integration people need. But we start with people, we start working with them. You'd meet us 1 month before you do anything in Brazil.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we coach people one-on-one, both myself and my brother. I work on people to help them understand the mental and emotional drivers for all the things, all the perceptual underpinnings that are running their life at this point, but also to get a deep understanding and connection to why they want to be in that experience in the first place. Because there's a lot of conscious motivators and also unconscious motivators for wanting to be in the space. And just so everybody knows, this is a retreat space working with plant medicines. So ayahuasca, mushroom, hape, sananga, and we're affiliated with 2 tribes in the Amazon, the Yawanawa and the Uniquin, through our facilitator, Ivan. And he's baptized into the Yawanawa tribe, and his Bajé, or his mentor in the ceremonial space, is the chief of the Uniquin tribe, and they're from Macre in Brazil. So when people are coming with us, we are grounding them in a bit more of psychology, physiology, where you are right now, and then we're going to take you over there. You're going to experience something different, and then we're going to help you integrate. My brother, Paulie, he does the physical. He does a bit more of the physical stuff, a bit more of the different kinds of practices, and he'll coach people through that and the dieta and stuff like that. But he can explain that to you.
Yeah, because you're going there to change something, regardless whether it's something emotional or to enhance, to evolve, to heal, change something. And I think a lot of people go into, for example, I'll give an example. Change as a process, there's a part of change process that, for example, with me physically, I do a lot of gymnastics practicing. If someone says, okay, to do the side splits, it's going to take you a year, I'm like, cool, because I've got so much practice within the physical space of changing my body or accomplishing a handstand or something like this. So I'm very conscious of the change process in my life there. So what I like to do with people before they go there is, one, prepare their body physically. So help them with their sleep, their hydration, just help them understand health and what it means to balance your health. But I also want to introduce them to the concept of change.
Yeah.
Because they're going there with that subconsciously. So how can we do things consciously to bring more awareness around the processes that go into change, so that they're already practicing it before they've got there. They're already in that mindset. And so that when we finish the retreat, because when we're there, we have some talks, so like not workshops, but we talk, we coach them, and we start the process of integration. And that is a process of integration, practices. So if I can get the ball rolling before, then it's an easier process after to create a practice around what you discovered there. But I start that before.
Yeah.
So basically, there's a bit of an introduction period prior to going. So a certain individual has to be in a certain state, obviously health wise, the right nutrition. They need to be nice and grounded, and in probably the best physical shape before they go the next level.
It's not that they have to be in a specific shape, because that's relevant, right? It's just we're going to get them into the best, most possible shape that we can get them to
maximise the benefit.
Exactly. To make it as safe and as effective as possible.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, because look, where we saw a gap in the market was that there were a lot of places that will offer people the medicine, and you'll fill out a questionnaire, and there'll be basic health, I guess, red flags they're looking for. So they're looking for things like somebody who has a background with schizophrenia, bipolar, and all these a few other different neurological, I'll put quote unquote diseases, but conditions that would be contraindicated to having a anthogenic plant. So what we saw in that was that you feel that people fill out these forms, but then they go and they have the drink, and then that's it. But there's so much more to it. They'll tell you, they'll advise you, they'll send you a PDF to say, don't eat this, don't eat that, drink this, drink that, and everything like that. But I don't know if you've ever met somebody who was prescribed a diet, or if you've been prescribed a diet yourself, and if you're starting from, I'm eating a certain type of diet. I'll say, I'm eating red meat, I'm eating chocolate, I'm eating all these different things, I'm drinking 10 coffees a day and stuff like that. You just get a PDF. There's no one there holding you accountable to make sure that you do that. And what I've found in my experience is that it can be, not only can it be dangerous for people to turn up not properly prepared physically, but at the same time you can be, say you're in the ceremonial space and you have a purge, and a purge could be, there's many different kinds of purge. You can have shaking, you can have sweating, you can also have vomit, you can cry, poo, wee, everything like you could do everything, right? But if you've got a purge, a really strong vomiting purge, and people can get into like these kind of processes where they're vomiting for hours. All right, cool. Where they're vomiting for hours on end, all right? A lot of that you think that could be like a psycho-spiritual purge and getting something out of you, but if you're not properly prepared, it could just be toxicity that you've got in there, and you're just getting it out because you weren't guided into how, and held accountable, guided into how to get into the space beforehand, physically going through the traditional dieta.
So that's what Paulie was saying, so that maximises your benefit. You wouldn't want to ruin a ceremony because you're just spewing up macas from your diet of macas.
Exactly.
And bourbon and cigarettes and just all the crap.
Yeah.
So you want to clean up before you go.
I think a lot of people, and it's a shame when, for example...
Don't sue me, macas. I like the coffees in there when we have to go one day.
No, it's a shame when someone like yourself who's just been introduced to this, ayahuasca, like, whoa, that's crazy. Then you start going down a bit of a rabbit hole and like, whoa, this sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But imagine you went there without meeting us or without understanding the concept of dieta, and I don't know your lifestyle, but what I do know, it's quite healthy. And you are mindful of a lot of things. But imagine that you went there just like whatever, then you spent an hour throwing up. You're like, this doesn't work. This was crazy. I'm never going back again. And it's like, no, like you were so close to open up this new world of spirituality or something amazing. And just all you needed was a bit of coaching and a bit of guidance. Yeah. And it completely changed the journey or the path or the perspective. And it's a shame when I hear people talk about these ceremonial spaces, and I can hear straight away in their words, they just didn't have the right guidance. It wasn't a bad experience.
So they wasted the opportunity to heal.
It's a shame.
Well, this is where the mental and emotional preparation comes in as well. So it's all well and good to come in there and say, I want to have this plant, I want to have this compound, and I want to receive and gimme. It sounds quite childish when you say it like that out loud, and there's no judgment on anyone who's like that, but it's being able to understand, why are you there, in a really deep sense. What is it that you're looking to gain from the experience? I mean, you wouldn't even take a Panadol without an intention.
Of course.
You have a headache, and your intention behind taking a Panadol is to alleviate the headache. It's the same thing with ayahuasca. It's like, if you're going to walk into a ceremonial space, why do you want to have this? What is it that is speaking to you about this particular experience? So I'll go through and work with you, and I do this privately as well in my coaching space, and we'll work out what are the significant emotional events in your life where you create a conscious and unconscious split that are stored in your subconscious mind and are driving all your actions through impulses and instincts toward and away. We'll find those things. We'll start working on them while you're sober so that you can have an understanding that you can balance things without using the plants, but also B, an understanding on how to work with these sorts of moments when you're in a heightened state. Because when you have some of these plants and it turns off the default mode network in your brain, and you get access to your unconscious mind, both hemispheres start talking to each other and creating connections that weren't there before. You can access what's called a superpositional state where you can see both sides of an event all at once. And you need to be, if you are equipped with the language and the tools and the resources needed to be able to navigate that experience, you can get the most from it. But like Paul said, if we get addicted to this idea that if I have a plant medicine of any description and it's going to be this beautiful euphoric experience and everything like that, and it has to be that, otherwise I'm doing it wrong, or it's a bad, quote unquote, bad experience. Look, you could be getting some of the most profound teachings of your life and throwing them in the bin. Yeah. And so having the preparation to be able to understand a context, because your intention for each ceremony is the context for which you place around. It's the container for everything that you experience. But at the same time as well, having an understanding of, if it goes this way and if it goes that way, how to interact with both of them to really get the gold out of it, basically.
So you also encourage to stay away from applying analysis to the experience?
No. You want to look at the experience. You want to interact with the experience. You don't want to be passive.
But doing the analysis of good or bad?
Yeah, that was a moral judgment.
Yeah.
You don't put a moral judgment.
Because bad is probably it's good because it's probably the most healing you're going to go through that night.
It is no good or bad.
Yeah.
It is.
I understand what you're saying.
It is whatever it's a bringing up whatever is inside you. It's a representation of what's inside you, reflected to you in such a way that you can understand it and comprehend it. Yeah. Okay. So if you see a demon or if you see something really dark, it isn't necessarily that there's I can't confirm or deny that there's an actual demon there, but in my experience, it's often a representation of something very scary stored in your subconscious mind, coming to you in a form that you recognize. So if you've got a religious instruction, you might see the devil and you might see an angel. If you've got a Buddhist instruction, you'll see one of their deities. You know what I mean? And if you were Egyptian, you might see Set. You know what I mean? See, it'll come to you in such a way that you can...
In accordance to how your belief systems are. Yeah.
And that's it. And so you'll be able to look at that and be able to work with it and not shy away from it, not run away from it. So this is just prep. This is us just going through an intense preparation. We haven't even got to the bloody...
And that's all we've got time for on this episode.
We haven't even gotten to the actual retreat space.
What I'm getting is in this preparation, it's probably a good way to live in that adopting those habits.
That's the
preparation for this, right?
If we went through the 4 weeks of coaching and there was never a ceremony, like that's coaching. Like the coaching that we do to people, the what you go off and pay lots of money for, we're preparing you. So we're basically saying you don't need the medicine to work on your health, to better your health, to understand your drivers and your like just to understand yourself. You don't need the medicine and to better yourself. So like David put it very well before, where people are put in all their eggs in this one basket, saying they're going to drink this and it's going to change everything. Yeah. So we're saying, no, you don't need that to change everything. It's going to accelerate things. It will accelerate things quite a lot. But let's do as much as we can before, because at the end of the day, we don't live in ceremony. We live here. Yeah. So like raise your level up here. Go to the ceremony. It will be raised, but you're coming back to this reality. That
ceremony is a vehicle.
Yeah.
And you're jumping on that bus, that magical mystery tour, to quote the Beatles there.
Yeah.
Big thing that you guys talk about is landing the changes when you go to these things. We've all been to retreats. We've all been to workshops, and everyone goes to these things, and they're great while you're in them. You feel the group energy. It's so addictive. And you feel buzzed, and there's an afterglow for a week afterwards. And then also the chains start to pull you in after a week. You go back into your reality. You get off the bus, you step back into your world. You guys are big on landing those changes and integration post ceremony. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the program is that. So we prepare you, then we go through everything with you. When we immerse ourselves in Brazil and we turn our phones off and we're in the nature and we're doing all the things. And then when we get back home, it's helping you to integrate and helping you to take what you've learned through this entire experience, through the pre-work, through being in the retreat space, and what does that look like in terms of something that you can practice and physically do when you get back home. Because it's all well and good to have this experience and you go there and you can see God and you can speak to this and you can do all that and you feel and you're buzzing afterwards. But then when you get home and you have to send emails, it's like it doesn't compute.
You got to go home and take the bins out and
exactly
talk to your kids and
exactly. So we start having
bills.
these conversations. Yeah, we have these conversations before you get home.
Yeah.
So you can be grounded in your expectation of what you're stepping back into.
That's what I was about to say, grounded in expectations. Yeah. Because to think that you're going to drink a cup, then your whole life's going to change in one go when you come back. That's why I said before about introducing a conscious process where you're changing something, because the change doesn't just go bang, bang. It's a process of gradual steps.
You're chiseling away at it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a chisel away.
Absolutely. Because look, at the end of the day, if I'm married, I go over there, I do all this work, have the drink, and I come back home. They didn't do it. I'm the only one who went away. So I could have these profound shifts inside of me, but they haven't. And if I have an expectation of them to be, do, or have, or to be a certain way, they have met me and established a life based on me being a certain way. And now I've made these shifts. I have to be. If I'm not careful, I can be really disconnected from all of the things that I've got going on in my life when I come home. And there's going to be a certain level where you do feel disconnected. But again, how do you manage that? Well, a good way to start is to be able to talk to the people that have been through the process with you,
Yeah.
because they understand what you've actually been through.
I can relate.
Yeah, we can relate. And you can also have come up with strategies, tools, different ways to ground it. Also bring it into your awareness. How can I communicate with the people that I love and people close to me? You know, if they start questioning things and all that kind of stuff. Just these are that's in the realm of strategy. But there's also learning and teaching that came through when you were in that heightened state. You know, and what, like Paul said, what does that look like in a practice? And if you've already started the habit, you know, 5 weeks ago of creating practices, now you've got something to attach it to as well. You've got a basis for shifting. And the permanent shifts don't happen in the ceremony. It gives you the information. The permanent shifts happen outside with the physical perceptions, decisions, and actions.
Jumping back into the arena of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring it back in.
So basically, in a nutshell, I know you can't nutshell it, but in a nutshell, you've got the coaching beforehand, so there's a bit of a prerequisite period, getting yourself in shape, cleaning up the garage so you can go really head first and really maximising the benefits. So it's not just cleaning surface crap that you could have cleaned up yourself, going down the rabbit hole of the experience, and then putting Humpty back together again afterwards, and then integrating that into your world.
Absolutely. And then you start...
Where do I sign?
But then again as well, like you can be a profound change for certain people. If you come back and be very grounded and very together, having gone through that experience, other people will look at you and be like going, wow, something shifted in you, and it's something that I resonate with, something that's really positive, that's something that's magnetic about that as well. Yeah. Those kinds of results, you know, we've had plenty of people that have gone away and come back home, and other people like going, they will notice it. They'll be like going, there's something different about it. And they go, you know who you are. Like you've got something shifted.
You're driving the truck, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they like it.
Aura of confidence.
Yeah. There's confidence. There's a groundedness. There's an deep understanding.
Something's being lifted even. Yeah. Some heaviness has been lifted.
Absolutely.
So you walk differently, man. You walk differently and look differently when something's taken off your back.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because you don't know how many years you've been holding that.
I can imagine.
Absolutely. So it's beautiful. We have people that have come back, and they want to do the experience again, and they want to go through it again. But it's not like a clinging. It's not, I'm doing it because it just made me feel good in the moment. It's like going, something's profound about this, and I understand the respect of it.
Okay, you mentioned that. It's become like this recreational thing now, like this fast food version of it now. How I see it, for one that hasn't ingested the plant at all yet, I see there's a huge respect around it. It's come from a sacred place without sounding wanky. There's some depth to it. You guys respect it. The intentions is important as well. How do you guys view the takeaway version that's everywhere at the moment now? To me, that sounds a little dangerous. It's dangerous, like walking into an unfamiliar neighbourhood as a tourist, and you're walking into some dangerous places. Eh?
Yeah, we can take this
without a gun.
We can. There's a lot of different ways to answer this. I'll start off by saying the ceremony space, specifically after, once you've gone through the ceremony. What just came into my head actually is, imagine you're with like in a woman's group or a men's group, and everyone does a cold plunge experience. Yeah. And during the experience, it's quite difficult, and you all share it together. Maybe you're holding hands or arms or whatever. Then you get out, and there's this kind of a communal, mutual feeling, euphoric feeling of like love and just everything. And it feels amazing.
That group togetherness energy.
Yeah. And after the ceremony, what I can put this on one of the highest times in my life where I feel just so much love in a group, like so much love in a group. I've never been in, I have been in places, but where everyone, like where you've just won the grand final, and that group,
that brotherhood.
Yeah. After a ceremony, this is often a feeling that is amongst everyone.
Because you've been through some shit together.
Yeah.
It's a shared experience.
Everyone wants to hug everyone after and listen to what you went through and talk. Not everyone. Sometimes you just want to be left alone. But the majority of the group wants to share and to talk, and everyone's just in this really euphoric feeling. That can be quite addictive. And I think
because you miss that.
Yeah, and because sometimes you can associate if my life's not like that, or that's where I go to get my fix of feeling love, and that's not a reality. You don't live in ceremony, which was what we said before. Yeah. So I think that has a part to play for some people.
Absolutely, and I think because it's kind of like if that's where I get all my love and acceptance. If I get addicted to that kind of euphoric moment. And that's the only time when I have that level of love and connection and everything like that. Then my life, by comparison, if it's never not that, is shit. Because it's like going, that's an extreme high.
Is that analysis again?
Yeah, that's an extreme high. And anything that isn't that can be an extreme low. And it can actually mean that I don't appreciate to the same extent the love and connections and things like that I have in my own life because it doesn't compare. Already. Because it doesn't compare to what I experienced over there. And you're not wrong, and a lot of that isn't necessarily conscious with a lot of people as well. However, it's what the brain does. It's what the brain does. We create contrasts with everything all the time. So being able to understand that that's a great moment, be in the moment, experience the moment, but also have an understanding that it's not, that you can't, that staying in that isn't going to be just all great times. You know what I mean? Like understanding that how can I bring these things into my day-to-day life, not become reliant on something external in order to create love and connection. And it can become a bit of a cycle.
Yeah, it's a great quote by, you familiar with Yogananda?
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, the person that brought yoga to the West and autobiography of a yogi, there's a great part in the chapter saying the one who seeks level-mindedness and kind of sits in polarity. And there's a conversation I have with a guy I know really, really well, and I've dumb it down to like a basic level, a sporting team. People that are obsessed with sporting teams, and when they win, there's this euphoria that's so high, and when they lose, they're just down in the dumps. The players, the coaches, they experience that as well. But it's almost like you get the win, just take a little sip, enjoy the little sip, hang around with it, and then you're kind of back to work. And then the same applies for the loss, and it's all about, again, probably staying in that middle part there. And that's why Yogananda in that early on, and when they're starving for weeks, and all of a sudden you got this windfall, and then the little baby Yogananda was like saying, "Dad, why aren't we celebrating, and why aren't we ecstatic that we've got all this money now?" And that's when you drop the quote saying, "He who lives in
put him back in his place.
Level-mindedness doesn't get overdo the highs, but doesn't get lost in the lows, can stay in the middle, and but that's the thing though." Yeah. And we all struggle with that, and I'm a huge culprit at wanting to chase ecstasy, wanting to chase the highs all the time. And when I'm not high, it's like, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah, so
I want high again.
Exactly. And to the degree that you go up, your brain will automatically create a fear of the opposite. It's like, have you ever been enraptured by a woman, where you've met this woman and you look at her and you're like going, oh my God, she's just amazing. There's all positives and no negatives.
She's a straight 10.
You're sitting there and you're just in this.
All boxes ticked.
Absolutely. And then you walk into a certain place, and then there's a guy that maybe you perceive as being bigger than you, stronger than you, or anything like that, maybe smoother talker and everyone, and he starts talking to her, and then her attention goes to him. And all of a sudden there's a fear of loss. Now, to the degree that you are up high on her is to the degree that your brain naturally creates a fear of loss of her. And now you're unstable. You're in it's an instability. Yeah. Because as long as she's doing everything that you need, then you don't activate that fear. But the fear is always there. Yeah. Unless you can balance out and understand that she isn't one-sided, that she has both sides, and that you can bring her down off that pedestal, and you can be like, oh, cool, she has both sides, and you can bring the fear up and say it's not all bad, that there are benefits to that as well, and you can level it out, and that's when you access the heart. That's when your brain, your heart, and your gut, they all synchronize. That's when you're present, because you're not in fear of something or infatuated with something else. You are present to what you are doing there and then.
Yeah.
And that presence, that's what people, that's a meditative state to be in.
It's a great flow to be in, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're at your strength when you're in that state.
Yeah.
You can't be moved.
Exactly.
You can't be pushed off the horse at all.
We've all spoken to people that their mind is someplace else, their body's here and their mind's someplace else. They're not present. They're not present. They're not with you. You know, but right here, right now, I'm not anywhere else. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of mentality, that's the kind of mindset that I think is wise to bring to a ceremonial space. Understand that you're going here for something.
The afterglow, and you mentioned that it could get addictive, that beautiful post-experience of being in the trenches with someone overnight, and then the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the beauty in the air, and actually feeling that nice afterglow. Do you think that is a template is realistic to be in it day in, day out, or most of the time to default to, or close to it?
If you're asking me, no.
Paulie?
The how you feel after.
The
Template.
afterglow state.
Oh, no, it's not. Life's got ebbs and flows. So
Because then do you feel, you know,
I think you felt your high. You felt what a high feels like.
Yeah,
that blissful feeling that you want to stay and capture.
But this is the thing, you need both.
Yeah.
You need both.
It's light and shade, yin and yang, right?
When we go to the gym and go and lift something heavy, it's a challenge and it can be tough. And sometimes you don't want to go as well. Sometimes you're feeling lazy and everything like that, and you have to get yourself up off the couch, and you go and you do it, and it's a challenge. It's not always comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the fantasy. It's not comfortable. But on the other end of that, there's the pleasure of feeling fit.
Yeah.
There's the euphoric feeling after you've left the gym.
That's the process of
Well,
change.
no one ever, you don't feel like doing it. You feel like crap.
Yeah.
You got to do your practice or to go to the gym. You never regret going afterwards.
But anyone who's changed something in their life significantly, like a big thing, will tell you that there were hard days, there were easy days.
100%. It's not all peaches and cream.
Exactly.
And
So
most of the time you come in going, oh, fuck no. But then you leave going, fuck yeah.
yeah, so
processed it.
apply that to the ceremonial space at the end.
Yeah.
So you got the high. There might have been a challenge to the thing. You got a high at the end. You're with everybody, but there's going to be a challenge when you get home. But the challenge isn't a bad thing. It's just something to look at.
It's like, yes, now's my opportunity to really use the tools that I gained. It's like, okay, when life's going all smooth, it's easy to wake up and do your practice when everything's
Have the cold shower.
Yeah, when everything's
When it's
spot
summer.
on. You're
In winter as well in Canberra.
I think
Did that this morning.
I do it every day.
Cold shower.
Yeah, every single day.
How good is it? How long do you go for?
3 minutes, 15 seconds.
Okay,
The
3
reason
minutes.
it's 15 seconds is because I feel that the first 15 seconds isn't really, you're not really in it.
Do you do do you do a proper shower?
I'm a
then
little
go
bit
cold?
autistic with this.
Do you go proper shower then cold, or just
No,
cold the whole time?
Just straight cold.
So I do the full shower and then I go zip it to cold.
You're not at my level yet.
I've done the ice stuff as well, though.
No, it's better to do it. In all honesty, it's better to work your way up. Build yourself up to these things, because I think a lot of people. This is the same, I think, with any type of change. But me, I've got a lot of experience with the physical body. So if you said I want to learn to do the splits, you're not going to just go into the splits.
Yeah.
You'll snap something.
Unless you're Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh,
I
I
think
think
it's
he had
a-
to work up to
You
it,
have to
mate.
work up to that as well.
But your body has a natural reflex. It's called an apprehensive reflex, where your nervous system actually jumps in and stops you because at this point it doesn't trust you yet.
You want
So-
to keep you safe.
Yeah, so it will prevent you. It stops you well before your endpoint. So learning to understand your body and to breathe and to talk to it. Literally, you can add 10 degrees onto your side splits, but without going down that angle. I think a lot of people they think, oh, cold shower, cold ice plunge, they just jump into it. If they just went back and then went 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, their body will you'll literally feel your body start to relax and not be so stiff.
Yeah.
And just the nervous system won't feel like you're about to die. And that's the point of it is, can I feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation? And that's a carryover to your life.
100%.
Because
The first thing I noticed with doing the
Yeah.
cold showers is it starts showing up in your day-to-day life.
Well, because
Courage and confidence and stuff, getting comfortable in that chaos.
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're handling a stressful situation. Your body's
Yeah.
literally feels like it's fallen off a side of a building, but you're just in a shower.
Well, in the shower perspective, but you mentally attach the beautiful comfort blanket of what a shower is. It's like, oh, nice warm shower, it's the best. And you just switch, you make it the opposite, where it's cold and uncomfortable, but then you become calm and comfortable in that chaos and grounded. Like, you walk out of that shower, your whole day's set. You'll walk into anyone, you'll talk to anyone, you'll face everything. Like, it just does so much for your life. How do we integrate that? There's a bit of a metaphor there when you're doing an ayahuasca situation. You go through some rough. Would there be always some viewing of some darkness and subconsciously roughness, or is there people gone there and done these smooth little
Dude,
vibrant ones?
I think my first probably 15 ceremonies were the most loving, like crazy spiritual,
Peace and love.
just peace and love on steroids.
Wow.
And it got to the point after, I don't know how, it was literally, we'd been to Brazil, to the Amazon. I think it was maybe my first 20 ceremonies were all just this euphoric, crazy. And then I went to a retreat in Peru, and it was a traditional dieta, and I shared the whole experience on a Instagram live chat that I did. But in short, I actually said to them, my whole experience is in the Brazilian tradition, and I've had nothing but beautiful experiences, and I'm really curious to see what's behind the curtain, like what is on that dark side. I haven't really accessed it, so I've come here to put myself outside my comfort zone and to experience a different tradition, but just to see. And that was that was a very. You're about to ask something?
Is it like when you're trying to surf, you have a bad experience with a wave, and you get dumped by a wave, you get hit in the head by a board, your rope gets snapped off, and you see a shark zip past you, and you're like traumatized. Fuck, I'm not surfing again, man.
No,
I don't know, maybe.
to wrap it
If
up.
it was at night.
But you know what I mean? And
you're
still
blindfolded.
And you're still coughing up like salt water.
The craziest thing was it was the most. I like your analogy. It was good.
It's happened to me.
Slightly different.
In Byron Bay, by the way.
You
surfed
sure?
again.
There was a shark there.
Not the shark. I just
Okay,
looked at
so
it.
how much of the?
and the surfboard was still on my leg.
Okay.
It was a brim. It was a brim.
Yeah,
Fish
might have been a
going
shark,
past.
probably a dolphin.
No, the week was the hardest. It was actually 2 weeks. 2 weeks, the hardest ceremonies I've ever had in my life. The most challenging, darkest took me down to places I didn't know I could ever. Like it was dark. It was dark and difficult. Dark, difficult, and challenging.
The lights were off.
Lights were they were I don't know, they were off, but what it gave me was the most spiritual strength that I've taken, more than what the loving experiences. So I learned the most from that 2 weeks, and I've taken that on equal, but it's one of the most rewarding things that I've taken from ceremonies came from that 2 weeks. So they're not all dark, not all light. There's something to learn in both sides, and don't just think you're only going to learn from the light, which is what we were talking about before, from the good and bad.
Just integrating the dark and light.
Exactly. I mean, evidently I had much more darkness inside me.
Yeah. His first ceremonies were, I was like,
You can't hide, can you? There's nothing to hide.
Yeah, I had a lot more going on, but I didn't have 20 ceremonies of love. I got my ass kicked plenty of times initially as well. But again, I had a background already in personal development and self-reflection and everything like that, so that I could. I'm really grateful that I could handle it as well, because going through seeing some of these dark things that were coming up. I mean, without understanding the context for it, it would have shut me down completely. But again, similar to what Paul's experience was, the fact that I had to go back in and have another ceremony the next night. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've experienced different traditions as well in different parts of South America. I remember I was sitting with 25 doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists from around the world, and we're being facilitated by Dr. Gabor Mate. And he actually speaks to his experience in that retreat space on Joe Rogan. Yeah, so he was talking about it. Now, I had a very strong experience. We're in the dark and everything like that, and it was really hard to integrate it at the time, but then I had to front up and do it again the next night. Are you... Oh, okay. I was... Okay.
We could talk about it all day.
Okay.
Just hope that doesn't run out, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, essentially went through this super dark experience. It was the most challenging one that I've had. I felt like I was going insane. I wasn't sure if I was going to come out of it when I was in the middle of it. I had to front up and do the same thing the next night.
Wow.
And I had to try and ground all of that. And then the next night when I went through it, again, started challenging, but it ended being a very beautiful experience. But it was going through the challenge and being able to understand that on the other side of this is something more. And it got to the point where when things changed, it was that I was started to enjoy the pain and I started to enjoy the pressure of the situation. I was like, all right, give me more.
It's like the cold shower.
Give me more. Yeah, and exactly. It started to flip. And then from that point forward, I had no fear of going into that space, and I had no fear of looking internally and sharing what was really uncomfortable about myself, sharing things that I'd kept secret about myself.
You gain this spiritual strength.
I was able to share things in the middle of a circle in front of people around sexuality, around all these different things that I denied in myself, and I was very uncomfortable. I had a lot of anxiety about, and I was able to share them in front of everyone because I'd been through something so challenging that compared to that, this was easy. So going through, having that understanding not to get attached to things being beautiful and euphoric, but to also recognize that through that challenge comes, like Paulie said, a spiritual strength, a deep centeredness that made me more resilient. I'm sure by listening to Paulie, made him more resilient, would make people more resilient to the ups and downs and throes of life.
Not just in ceremony. So to honor both sides equally. That's the integration. That's integrating both sides, light and dark, really seeing the beauty in both.
I love it. Thanks for the chat, boys.
You're welcome, man.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Welcome, man.
Thank you. We'll see you in October.
Maybe. But by the sounds of it, I'm there.
I'm going to hold you accountable, bro. Yeah.
That's a good way to end.